I'm just trying to decide where to start.
Take your time. We like looking at boys.
Really?
We do.
Yes.
You like looking at men too? You like looking at men?
Prefer boys.
Hey, who doesn't? So, in order to follow Mark Maron, I can't just do it myself. I had to bring 60 people up with me. I asked Lewis Black, I said, do you think comedy can teach or enlighten? And Lewis said, absolutely. I do a joke about this, kind of demonstrates that fact. I read an article where this woman almost bites off her husband's penis while he's cooking pancakes. She's blowing him, I presume. He accidentally spills burning oil down her back. She bites down on his penis, and he brings the frying pan down on her head. Now, this story should be in a physics textbook and given to 10-year-olds. Now, I know we have a real fear of sex in this country, but I guarantee you read that story to a 10-year-old child, and he will never forget that for every action, there is an equal reaction. So there you go. Comedy can teach. A lot of what goes on in this book is people talking about crossing lines and things. And Stephen Colbert, I asked him also about whether or not he thinks comedy can have an effect on politics, and he said, well, I'm pretty sure someone must have mentioned to you the quote by Peter Cook about satirists. When asked, does satire have an effect on the political situation, he said something to the effect of, absolutely, all the great satire of that Weimar cabaret. Look how they stopped. And I was talking with Penn Jillette, very interesting character, really. You should, yeah, he's really interesting. Anyway, he was talking about how the certain people like Lenny Bruce and Abby Hoffman, that what meant something to him was their politics, and he felt that the humor was so negligible compared to their real purpose. Lenny Bruce being funny, totally unimportant to me. Abby Hoffman being funny, totally unimportant. There was a much higher calling than that these guys had. But my wife occasionally has to tell people, you gotta understand, Penn takes everything seriously. I was complaining that my 3-year-old daughter was being thrown into this whole princess culture. I watched a little bit of Aladdin with her, and there's all this stuff about being a princess. All her friends have these princess days, and she has this Disney princess game where she moves these little princess puppets around the board. And I said to her, you know what? You're not my little princess. You're Daddy's little freedom fighter. You are not Daddy's royally born with no egalitarian spirit and able to keep down other people because of your ancestry and birth. You're an individual, and you will accomplish in life what you want to accomplish. Your friends, they're their Daddy's little princesses. You are Daddy's little freedom fighter. You want to dress up? Dress up like Betsy Ross. You want to dress up like Susan B. Anthony. And pretty soon I was saying things like, Lady Di, an evil whore. Why would anybody in America like her? She's a symbol of everything bad. Susan B. Anthony, women's rights, atheist, abolitionist, everything Susan B. Anthony stood up for was right. Dress like her. Dress like Madame Curie. There are female heroes you can dress up as. Don't do the princess thing. And my sister-in-law looked at me and said, you know, Penn, I think it has more to do with playing dress up and the nice pretty gowns. I don't think she's thinking all that much about keeping down the proletariat. But I feel a horrible guilt come over me when she pulls out that princess book for me to read and look at the gowns. I just feel like this is so wrong. Roseanne Barr. I don't know how many of you know much about Roseanne Barr. She is insane. You know that, right? And I mean that with all its positive and negative associations. But she's also really, really powerful in her particular way. Did you know that she was a Baptist preacher at the age of 12?
What?
I know, that's what I said. I said, I had no idea. She said, I know. It's in all my books that nobody gives a shit about and doesn't read. But yeah, she was actually, she goes, underneath every religion's big old books, you know, the ones they use as an excuse to bomb each other, it just says to be nice people. I like that. That's a good message. But I am passionate about religion's brainwashing. I was raised in an apartment house with all these Holocaust survivors, Jews with tattoos. It was in Salt Lake City, but it was like being in Poland or something. We got all the real scary Jewish stuff, just horrifying. They point to me when they talk about horrific things you don't want nobody who's 3 years old to hear. And it was mental terrorism. And I believe it takes a lot of abuse and terrorism to make a believer. That's what they do to kids. They do it so a kid will keep quiet when the priest molests him or something.
It's totally fucking true.
But she goes, but I'm totally into Jesus. I love the whole myth of it. It really is the greatest story ever told. I think we're wired to believe in something, some story, some myth, whatever. And that's what being a stand-up comic is to me. It's actually kind of a mission from God. I know a lot of comics don't feel that way, but a lot of us do. And sometimes we wonder, what is this thing that drives us to correct everything? So I follow Jesus. Jesus would be a stand-up comic today, for sure. He probably wouldn't go to comedy clubs because he wouldn't want to be around all that filth and sin, but he'd do it in a park under a tree for free. He might be homeless, too. And God damn it, I say he's a girl this time. Comedy's a spiritual act, really. You give the audience something, they take it, and they leave something behind for you. It's a perfect exchange. And here's another thing I love about comedy. As a woman, I don't have any place to force my will on people, so I do it on stage. I've had from 9 to 15,000 people or more, and to be one lone being controlling that room with nothing but your own body, mind, and a mic is some high spiritual shit. I talked for a while in my show about how Bush tried to make the world safe for democracy so other countries can have Walmarts and sell Chinese goods for discount prices, because that's what freedom is all about. That and shooting abortion doctors. When young people at colleges heard it, it was like being a rock star. They loved it. They'd say, this is what you're saying? You're our TV mom. We grew up with you. You practically raised us. And I'd say, that's why you are how you are. You were my TV children, and I raised you to be citizens of an enlightened future. And that's what I meant to do, teach them all something. And then I asked her about her anti-Zionism stand, which she's taken a lot of flack for, but boy, she doesn't back down. She said, my ancestors go way back before the Jews. There's something that crawled out of the ocean. A lot of people believe Zionism stands for justice and peace as opposed to apartheid and war. But every piece of earth on this planet is holy, not just one. I believe in no separatism, no mental terrorism against children, and a lot of Jewish people think like that too. And it's up to Jewish people who think that way to challenge the Jewish people who don't. My father always said, I'm a Jew, I'm not a Zionist. I, Roseanne Barr, am a Jew and not a Zionist. Most Jewish Americans are like me. In fact, most Jews in Israel think exactly like me. But the top tier, the first and second estates, politicians, they all block that message because they're making too much money off of things they are. Things as they are. My father also said Israel is just another walled ghetto. And I don't support walled-in ghettos where Jews live, and I don't care who built the wall. It ain't right, and I don't fucking like it. This is a big example of knowing I have to say things that no one else is going to say. Because they've got all the Jews scared shitless. All the famous Jews are right on board. None of them are going to say anything. And I thought, this has to be said by a Jew. It cannot just be said by Arabs anymore. I'm well aware of the risks I take too, but what the fuck? I'm living my beliefs. If I don't say it, if I live only for myself, as it says in our Talmud, then what the hell am I?